All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I have not done a video like this in I don't even know how long. So we're going to talk about the Chicago Bulls. I have two players that I think the Chicago Bulls could target in the offseason that I think will help them out. Now, I think the Bulls should sign Lonzo Ball. Right now, the Bulls are 26-35. They're a solid team, but 4-6 in their last 10. I mean, you could make the argument that they look significantly worse after the deadline than before the deadline, or maybe not significantly, but after getting Vucevic, and then you got Levine going down with COVID. We don't even really know the whole story behind that. It's just been a really weird couple of weeks, and sitting at the 11th seed right now, they're just one game behind the Wizards, but the Wizards have won. I mean, I think they just lost. They had won 8 straight, 10 of their last 11. So they've won like 10 of their last 12. And then you got the Pacers, who are just like 3 games ahead of the Bulls. So right now it's kind of between the Bulls and the Wizards. And I think that the Bulls moving forward definitely are going to need some help. And it's been blatantly obvious all season that we need a playmaking point guard. We need a facilitator. Satoransky is great. I love Satoransky, but we need a long-term, younger type point guard who can do this like Lonzo Ball. Now, I don't want to pay Lonzo. I'm still very skeptical on Lonzo Ball. Now, if I'm the Chicago Bulls, I think I would pay Lonzo Ball $20 million a year. I would be comfortable paying Lonzo $20 million a year, nothing more. I wouldn't pay him 21 mil. I wouldn't pay him 22 mil. I would pay him 20 mil because you don't want to have a bad contract. Like, you really just, if it can be avoided, I mean, why not avoid it? You don't want to screw yourself long term by giving somebody who doesn't deserve as much money as they got. I mean, it just messes the whole future up. It messes everything up. So that's why I'm really skeptical about giving Lonzo Ball over $20 million a year. I just haven't been shown enough to want to do that. I would pay him 18 mil, I'd pay him 19 mil, I'd pay him 20 mil, but I think 20 mil is definitely where I'm going to cut it off. So I think the Bulls could definitely get Lonzo Ball. I think obviously they're going to have to play around in the offseason, and this video is kind of just contingent that they play around in the offseason. Probably that Laurie won't be back, and I don't think Laurie will be back one bit, but let's just say that the Bulls sign Lonzo Ball for 18, 19 million, $20 million. So we're just going to assume that that's what they did. And if they didn't, let's just hope they got a point guard. That will give them about a little under 20 mil to work with, about 18, 19 million dollars to work with, depending on how much money you give Lonzo Ball or that point guard. They'll have about 20 mil left if they work the offseason the way they should. The two guys that I really want are Will Barton and Doug McDermott. Now, take a look at Will Barton first off, because I think his contract right now is like a little over 13 mil. I want to say it's like 13.2 million. So this hypothetical is kind of going to need Will Barton to take a pay cut, because if you're paying Lonzo, if you're paying a point guard, and you only have 19, 18 million dollars to work with, Will Barton, I mean, he's making like over 13 million right now. So hopefully he's willing to take a pay cut. If not, they got to work around, they got to do something, but they should be able to offer Will Barton around $12 million, a little over $12 million. Now, that should be able to get the job done. I don't think, especially if it's a long-term contract, I think this is something Will Barton would definitely take advantage of. I know you're going to a worse team, but you're going to have a little bit more of a role, a little bigger of a role, and it's going to be a longer-term contract. So when you look at Will Barton, he's 6'6", he's 30 years old, he's having a super solid season, and he's actually gotten better, especially on the offensive end in the last few years, just year by year. On the season, he's averaging 13, 4, and 3. He's throwing in a steal per game. He got his three-point number up to 38%. He's only a career 35% shooter. But with Will Barton, you get a very solid player, right? He's 30 years old, so he's a solid veteran. He's a solid leader. He's been on winning teams. He's I can't think of a good analogy to use that he's been around in the league for a long time, but maybe drop one in the comments. He's seen some things. He's been through some stuff. He has great defense. He's got great defense, and that's not even really what I want to talk about Will Barton, because it's just more the strides he's made offensively have been great. And I'm sure a large portion of that has to do with the fact that he plays with Jamal Murray, plays with Nikola Jokic, plays with Michael Porter Jr., who's having an incredible season this year. I mean, it's going to help so much, because all the pressure is going to be on those three guys. So Will Barton, he's not even necessarily a 3-and-D type player, but he's just a great defender. And that's something I think the Chicago Bulls could definitely use, because with Patrick Williams is he just hasn't taken that stride offensively. And with Will Barton, you have a lockdown defender who can score. Let Patrick progress a little bit more. I'm not even making the lineups right now. I don't know how they would work with the lineups, but I think this would be great. Will Barton could mentor Patrick Williams a little bit, and obviously they could play together. It's not like, if we get Will Barton's going to be starting 35 minutes a night, and Patrick Williams is going to be getting, 15. That would definitely not be the case. So playing time, no issues with that, but I just think this is a solid veteran leader that could come out of the Chicago Bulls team and really help them out. I think the Bulls need to get a little bit older, and I know that sounds kind of contradictory maybe with their rebuilding, or not rebuilding anymore, but the last few years they've been kind of rebuilding and, definitely getting younger. They entered the season with the youngest starting five in the NBA. So they got Thaddeus Young. Yeah, they got Daniel Tice. They got the veterans. They got Satoransky, and it's working out great. You're experiencing it right now. I mean, Thaddeus Young, Tice, they're playing really well. Thaddeus Young played well for us all season. So I really like the veterans, because we'll get a young player from the draft, and we have an extremely young team, and, we'll still get young players. We'll still get young assets. So the second player I want to talk about is actually Doug McDermott. My Bulls fans, we all know Doug. And it's a little interesting that I want Doug, because if my memory serves me correctly, the Bulls gave up 2 first-round picks and then some to get Doug McDermott on their team out of college. So he's out of Creighton. I'd give him about $9 million. I think you could get away with $8 million, but I think $9 million. This hypothetical could kind of give him Will Barton about $12, $13 million, giving Doug McDermott $8 to $9 million. He's 6'8", he's 29 years old. Obviously, he's played for the Chicago Bulls. But this season, he's really taken that next step. And honestly, since he's gotten to Indiana, he's looked great. 13 points, 3 rebounds, shooting 38% from 3, and he's 41% three-point shooter. This is a guy who you can have come off the bench. This is a guy who you can just throw in certain lineups, and he's that sharp shooter. And that's something I think that the Bulls are really missing right now. I love Denzel, but especially the other night, if Denzel didn't do that the other night, nothing changes. We've been dealing with Denzel's weird shot selection and just the disappointment revolving around Denzel Valentine for so many years now. And I would so much rather have Doug McDermott be that Denzel Valentine, because especially shooting 41% from 3 on your career, I mean, this is a cheap veteran that you can get. He's been in Chicago. The Bulls fans love him. I mean, he's just a very well-liked player. So Doug McDermott, Will Barton, and then obviously Lonzo Ball. That's all I got for today. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. I'll see you guys tomorrow.